The sun hit the courtyard like a hammer. Dust hung in the air, turning every breath into grit. Generators throbbed in the background, a low, relentless heartbeat beneath the clatter of tools and distant rotors. People moved fast on this base, carrying crates, checking manifests, swapping out radios, because speed meant survival. She moved differently. Sergeant Emily Carter limped through the heat with a bandage seeping through her left trouser leg. 3 days earlier, an IED had blown an armored truck onto its side and tried to take her with it. It failed. She pulled 2 soldiers out of a burning vehicle and stayed until the ammo started to cook off. She hadn't slept right since. A knot of new Navy SEALs leaned in the shade near the comms building, boots crossed, arms folded, that easy, elite confidence. One watched her pass and let a smirk crawl across his face. "Look at that," he said. "Can't even walk straight. Guess she's done playing soldier." Someone laughed too loud, then another. A third voice tossed in a rumor. Maybe she'd been running the wrong way when it blew. Heads turned. A few snickered. Emily didn't. She kept her eyes forward, pace steady, jaw set. She didn't owe them a story, but others heard. Corporal Ryan Brooks froze with a coil of cable in hand. Sergeant Dana Reeves' military police watched from patrol. Both knew what those bandages meant. Both had seen her crawl into fire. The SEALs didn't know it yet, but this courtyard remembered things. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to Military Stories so you never miss these true tales of courage, and tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? Emily Carter was not the kind of soldier who announced herself. 8 years in uniform had filed the edges off her voice and left behind something quieter, steadier. She learned early that there's a difference between loud courage and lasting courage. The first burns fast. The second holds the line when it's 3 in the morning and the world is dirt and fear. She was a medic who refused to let the word just precede her title. Just a medic doesn't drag a man with shattered femurs through diesel smoke. Just a medic doesn't find a pulse with fingers shaking from shock and continue anyway. She had 2 Bronze Stars, a Purple Heart, and a habit of slipping out of ceremonies early because applause made her uncomfortable. People noticed the scar that sliced from the bridge of her nose to her cheekbone, thin as a paper cut. They didn't always ask, she didn't always answer. Ryan knew the story. He'd been a private when she talked him through his first firefight on a radio channel that crackled like rain. "Breathe once, now talk." That's what she'd said. He obeyed, and a platoon lived because the coordinates he read out were right the first time. Sergeant Dana Reeves knew a different story. Emily stepping between a raging staff sergeant and a junior specialist who'd messed up a motor pool form. She diverted a storm with 2 words, "Walk away," and then stayed late to help the kid refile the paperwork correctly. Respect isn't loud, it accumulates. When people got quiet around Emily, it wasn't fear, it was gravity. 3 days before the courtyard insult, the convoy hit loose sand with the kind of bad luck you only understand if you've driven there. One moment, the road was a ribbon. The next, it wasn't. The MATV's front tire found the pressure plate like a magnet finds steel. The blast lifted the world. She remembered the air after, sharp with cordite and burning rubber. She remembered legs refusing to obey. She remembered hands moving anyway. Seatbelt release, door latch, a jam that would not unjam, and a pry bar solved it. And then there were fingers on a vest drag handle and the stub of her left boot scraping asphalt. She didn't remember falling. She only remembered hearing someone scream and realizing it was her own voice telling a half-conscious driver to keep breathing. They credited the crew's survival to armored design and fast response. Ryan credited it to something else. Emily's refusal to leave until the driver blinked twice and squeezed her wrist. That squeeze is why he still sees daylight. So when laughter floated across the courtyard like flies, something inside Ryan went cold. He looked at the SEALs new to the base, reputations trailing behind them like banners. Their leader, Petty Officer Mark Davies, wore his swagger like kit, fitted, balanced, checked. His guys adored him. They had reason. Their AARs were clean, their missions classified. He couldn't square the man who led successful raids with the man who'd chosen to sneer at a wounded soldier walking alone. Maybe it wasn't cruelty, Ryan told himself. Maybe it was boredom, the kind that gnaws on discipline when there's nothing immediate to do. But the words had been knives, and they had found flesh. Dana's patrol path changed by a yard, close enough to catch the faces, the shoulder patches, and the time of day. Her hand drifted toward the body cam toggle and then stayed there. She wasn't hunting anyone. She was collecting the truth. Emily reached the medical tent and sat without speaking as the PA peeled back gauze and frowned. "You walked too far," the PA said. "She had to," Emily replied, a trace of humor in it. "The tent was this far away." "You're not funny." "Only on days when I'm vertical." The PA muttered something about stubbornness and heroism existing in the same skull without killing each other. Emily watched the flap sway as the heat reached in and touched everything. She didn't tell anyone what she'd heard outside. She didn't need pity and didn't have time for rage. There were wounds to irrigate and forms to sign and an ache in her bones that sang a lone note through every hour. On bases like this one, information doesn't travel, it arrives already assembled. The insult passed from mouth to mouth, losing none of its edge. Someone swore they saw a phone angled just right in a reflection. Someone else repeated the words exactly. A mechanic with grease on his knuckles said he'd marked the time down because he was halfway through changing a filter. By evening, the deputy base commander had a folder she hadn't asked for and couldn't ignore. Lieutenant Colonel Janet Morales had a voice like a blade, sharp only when it needed to be. She was 5'6", felt taller, and carried a long memory for kindness and disrespect alike. Before she read the first line of the report, she remembered an email. SFC Carter commendation recommendation pending. Exhibited extraordinary courage under fire. Morales had approved it. Now she held a different narrative. Audio, eyewitness accounts, a still photo with faces ringed in red. Because sometimes you need the obvious made obvious. Regulations aren't suggestions here. Culture isn't a suggestion either. She glanced at the clock, weighed her options, and stood. "Get me Commander Porter," she told her aide, "and MP Sergeant Reeves, now." Outside, the temperature fell a few degrees. The courtyard stayed hot. They didn't start with the hammer. They started with the facts. Dana Reeves gathered statements like a medic gathers supplies, methodically, with an eye for order under pressure. "Tell me exactly what you saw and when." She separated opinion from observation. She did not prompt. She did not push. The story came anyway, threaded and tight, as if the courtyard itself wanted to speak. Ryan Brooks submitted his own account last because he needed an hour to cool the kind of anger that shortens careers. He kept it simple. "I heard, look at that, can't even walk straight. Guess she's done playing soldier." Another voice suggested she was running away from the fight when she got injured. Those are the exact words. He included coordinates he'd logged habitually, a timestamp and the angle of the sun because he pays attention like that. The photo wasn't perfect, faces grainy, one seal half-turned, but Dana had captured enough. The body language told the rest. Crossed arms, tilted chins, the slight forward lean that separates a joke from a jab. Commander James Porter arrived with his jaw set. SEAL commanders carry the paradox like a birthright, willingness to do violence for the nation and refusal to tolerate violence against its people. He'd led men through blacked-out houses where every shadow could argue with your heartbeat. He'd also written condolence letters so clean they read like prayers. "What's the complaint?" he asked. "Not a complaint," Morales said. "An incident, a violation of conduct, a stain I won't let spread." Porter looked at the names. He knew them all. Pride prickled like a rash. "We'll address it internally." Morales met his eyes. "We will address it, Commander, together." He nodded once. Understood. That night in the mess hall, the SEAL team occupied a corner table. The jokes were gray, tired.
Davies had the detached look of a man bored with waiting and too smart to pick a fight to relieve it. He caught Ryan staring and raised an eyebrow, half amused, half warning. Ryan didn't look away. "What?" Davies said, voice light enough to pass as friendly. "You need something?" "Respect," Ryan said. Davies smirked, the way men do when they believe a thing is theirs to dispense. "You want to try that line again?" Ryan kept his voice level. "You mocked a wounded soldier in public." An awkward silence skittered across nearby tables. Someone found a spoon to stir an empty cup. Dana stepped into the frame the way professionals step into traffic, calm, committed. "Petty Officer Davies," she said, "you and your men will report to the command tent at 0700. Uniform of the day. Bring your integrity." The table shifted, seats creaked. Pain flashed across one face, embarrassment across another. Davies stared, measuring. Then he set his fork down carefully, as if it might break. "We'll be there," he said.
He was, and so were his men. The command tent felt bigger when it was full of consequences. Maps held down by grease pencils, a whiteboard with 3 columns: action, owner, time. The air conditioner coughed. Morales stood at the head of the table, not behind it. Porter stood to her left like judgment with a trident pin. "Gentlemen," Morales began, "yesterday afternoon in the courtyard near communications, several of you engaged in conduct unbecoming members of this force. It wasn't banter, it wasn't esprit de corps. It was disrespect toward a soldier who carries more scars than you have years in service." A SEAL in the 3rd row, heart compact, shoulders tight, raised his hand. "Ma'am, permission to—" "Denied," Morales said, not unkindly. "You'll have your say." She pressed a button. Audio filled the space. Laughter. The sentence everyone would soon regret. The second voice with the sting in it. No one coughed now. No one shifted. You could hear the generators in the background and the scrape of a boot across gravel. You could hear the heat. Porter didn't look at his men. He looked at the words. When the last second ticked, he let the air settle and then spoke like a door shutting. "There are lines," he said. "You crossed the only one that matters." Davies tried to save it. "Commander, with respect, we didn't know. We assumed." "You assumed weakness in someone bleeding for you," Porter said. "You assumed the right to diminish a fellow warrior." Davies' mouth closed like he'd bitten something that fought back. "What would you have done if you were there?" The narrator's question would be a quiet needle for the audience later, but in the tent, the question belonged to Morales. "If someone mocked your teammate, broken open and still standing, would you laugh? Would you look away? Or would you correct the record?" She let the silence answer. It answered well. He was, and so were his men. The command tent felt bigger when it was full of consequences. Maps held down by grease pencils, a whiteboard with 3 columns: action, owner, time. The air conditioner coughed. Morales stood at the head of the table, not behind it. Porter stood to her left, like judgment with a trident pin. "Gentlemen," Morales began, "yesterday afternoon in the courtyard near communications, several of you engaged in conduct unbecoming members of this force. It wasn't banter. It wasn't esprit de corps. It was disrespect toward a soldier who carries more scars than you have years in service." A SEAL in the 3rd row, heart compact, shoulders tight, raised his hand. "Ma'am, permission to—" "Denied," Morales said, not unkindly. "You'll have your say." She pressed a button. Audio filled the space. Laughter. The sentence everyone would soon regret. The second voice with the sting in it. No one coughed now. No one shifted. You could hear the generators in the background and the scrape of a boot across gravel. You could hear the heat. Porter didn't look at his men. He looked at the words. When the last second ticked, he let the air settle and then spoke like a door shutting. "There are lines," he said. "You crossed the only one that matters." Davies tried to save it. "Commander, with respect, we didn't know. We assumed." "You assumed weakness in someone bleeding for you," Porter said. "You assumed the right to diminish a fellow warrior." Davy's mouth closed like he'd bitten something that fought back. What would you have done if you were there? The narrator's question would be a quiet needle for the audience later, but in the tent, the question belonged to Morales. If someone mocked your teammate, broken open and still standing, would you laugh? Would you look away? Or would you correct the record? She let the silence answer. It answered well. A sergeant from the air wing stepped in, uninvited, hat in hand, and stood at attention until Morales nodded. He spoke quickly, like words were heavier if they stayed too long. "My pilot took shrapnel last year," he said. "Doc Carter." He called her Doc, even though she's a sergeant. Sat on the ground in the dust and talked him through the pain like she was taking a stroll. He's alive because of her. That's all. He left. The tent grew larger around the quiet. Clue 2. A copy of a commendation draft already signed by a battalion commander. The words "extraordinary courage under fire" don't get thrown around here, they get carved. Clue 3. A compilation of base radio transmissions from earlier tours. Anonymous voices coordinating under stress. You can tell when a professional is on the channel. Calm breeds calm. The call sign of the person anchoring those nets? Sierra 31. Same cadence, same discipline. It was her voice. The mystery wasn't really a mystery anymore. It was a mirror. Some men saw themselves as they had been in that courtyard and flinched. Have you ever misjudged someone and learned you were wrong? What revealed the truth to you? A story? A scar? A voice? The moment came quietly. Emily stepped out of the medical tent at dusk to air that tasted less like punishment. She had a crutch she didn't want and a stubborn leg that didn't care what she wanted. The sky went purple, then bruise blue. She had one task left. She promised to inventory trauma kits and refused to let her replacement drown in administrative chaos. Behind the supply shed, a young supply specialist struggled with a box on a high shelf. He wasn't tall enough, or the shelf was too high, or both. He balanced on his toes, fingers inches short. "Don't," Emily said, not loud. He startled, stepped off the crate he wasn't supposed to be standing on, and almost crushed his own foot. "You okay?" she asked. "Sergeant, Yes, ma'am, I'm fine. These kits. They told me to get them staged, and the inventory sheets are out of order, and I can't." "Breathe once," she said, and Ryan, passing by with a coil of cable, froze at the echo. She set the crutch aside. She shouldn't have, the leg reminded her. She ignored it gently. Then she reached up with her good side and, using leverage more than strength, slid the box down with careful hands. She didn't grunt. She didn't perform. She just solved the problem in front of her and offered the specialist a ping. "Write the numbers as I read them, top to bottom, left to right." He did. Her cadence turned chaos into sequence. 10 minutes later, the shelves looked like a plan. The specialist looked like a soldier again. "Thank you, Sergeant," he said, throat tight. "Don't thank me," she replied. "Do it for the next person who walks in here bleeding." He nodded so hard it hurt to watch. Ryan stepped in. "Doc, Sergeant," he corrected himself, because respect doesn't assume closeness. "They've convened a hearing." "For what?" she said, and the way she asked told him she already knew. "For them." "Don't drag me into it," she said. "You'll make it about me, and it isn't." "It is," he said softly, "and it isn't. It's about all of us." She considered that like she considered treatment plans, professionally, with hope tucked into the folds. "If they want a statement, they can have my silence. That's my statement." He almost argued, then saw the tired set of her shoulders and changed his mind. "Understood." He left. She watched him go with a kind of affection she rarely let show. Then she picked up the crutch and the inventory sheet and returned to the orderly shelves, because the work is always waiting, and it never complains. On the other side of the base, near the comms building, where words had become weapons, a Humvee rolled in. Face gray, eyes wide. Half carried, half dragged, a soldier with a deep laceration down his arm appeared. The aid station wasn't far, but panic makes every meter longer. Davy saw it first. He moved without thinking because there are parts of him that still remember what he swore to be. He grabbed the soldier's belt, took most of the weight, and ran. "Tourniquet," he barked. "I need a..." A hand reached him with one, fast and clean. He looked up.
Emily. Her face was pale and fierce. She knelt beside the wounded man with the practiced economy of someone who has done this at night, in rain, under fire. Her leg trembled. Her hands did not. "High and tight," she said, and Davies helped. She checked a pulse. She checked eyes. She said a man's name until he said it back. She kept the world small enough to survive in. Ryan arrived on the run, tossed a pressure dressing, and then didn't speak because he didn't need to. Dana cleared the path through a knot of curious onlookers, her voice a whip crack. "Back up, make space, eyes out." In 60 seconds, the bleeding slowed. In 90, it stopped. In 120, a liter of oxygen and a blanket settled shock. Emily didn't look at Davies. She looked only at the man breathing under her hands. The medics took him, and the night swallowed the noise, and only then did Emily reach for her crutch and stand as if gravity had changed. Davies stared. He remembered every word he'd said. He tasted the metal of them. "Sergeant," he managed. She nodded once, not unkind. "Get some water. You're pale." He almost laughed at the mercy. He didn't deserve it. He took the water.
People say heroes do big things. Mostly, they do the exact right small thing at the exact right time. That's why we call it grace. Mourning brought consequence. The hearing was formal but not theatrical. No one needed a stage. They needed clarity. Morales ran it like a tight patrol. No wasted movement. "Sergeant Carter," she said when Emily entered briefly, "you are not here to carry our outrage." "I won't," Emily replied. Porter stood at the rear, arms crossed lightly, not as a threat, but as a promise to hold his men to a standard they'd walked past. The SEALs sat by row, uniforms perfect, faces not. Davies' eyes flicked up and then away. "State your name and billet," Morales said. "Sergeant Emily Carter, Medical Corps, attached to Charlie Company, 94 Bravo. Were you aware of comments made about you yesterday?" "I heard laughter," Emily said. "I kept walking." "Did you file a complaint?" "No, ma'am." "Why not?" "Because it wouldn't change what matters." "And what matters?" "That they learn how to treat the next person who limps by." Morales let that sit in the room, a warm ache behind the sternum. Then she nodded. "Thank you, Sergeant. Please sit." She turned to the SEALs. "Gentlemen, you will each acknowledge your role." Hart stood. "Ma'am, I laughed." His voice cracked on the last word, and he let it. "I didn't speak the words, but I laughed. That's the same thing." Another stood. "Ma'am, I said the second part. I'm ashamed." A third. "I didn't stop them. That's not a defense." Davies stood last. He didn't wrap himself in eloquence. He didn't plead elite fatigue or deployment stress or the 1,000 other reasons men give when they've been smaller than their training. "I led it," he said. "I meant it to be a joke. It wasn't. I own it." "Do you understand who you mocked?" Porter asked, voice steady. "I do now," Davies said. "Sir, with respect, I should have known already." "Why?" Morales asked. "Because a limp is a chapter, not a punchline." Morales opened Emily's file and read 2 lines only. It was enough. The words landed like a flag planting itself where wind can't blow it down. Then Commander Porter stepped forward. "Sergeant Carter," he said, "years ago you kept one of my men alive in a hangar that smelled like jet fuel and panic. Today you kept one of ours alive again in a courtyard that remembered last night." He turned to his team. "Stand." They stood. "About face," he ordered. They did. He looked to Emily. Porter's right hand rose crisp and exact. The salute was not symbolic. It was admission. It was gratitude. It was the language we use when words break. The room held its breath. Emily returned to the salute slowly, her left leg trembling with effort. The silence was a kind of music. When it ended, no one scraped a chair. Goosebumps are the body's way of saying, "Remember this." Decisions followed. Morales did not grandstand. She enumerated facts, consequences, and the future in 3 tidy columns, the way she liked to do it. Petty Officer Davies, demotion, 1 grade, removal from current Special Operations roster, reassignment to Rehabilitation Support rotation pending retraining, formal letter of censure. She turned to the others. Hart, non-judicial punishment tailored to the failure to intervene.
Additional men, letters of reprimand and required culture training. All, mandatory service in recovery and rehab clinics for wounded personnel over the next rotation. You will learn what pain looks like up close. You will serve it without being the hero of your own story. Porter didn't argue. He nodded. We will comply, and we will do more. See that you do, Morales said.
Outside, the courtyard stared back at the men who had used it as a stage. The sun seemed brighter, or maybe they just had less to hide behind. Word spread the way good news spreads after bad, carefully. In relief, people didn't cheer. They didn't clap in the mess line. They adjusted posture. They softened voices near the medical tent. Respect is most visible when it becomes ordinary. That afternoon in the motor pool, a young private dropped a socket wrench and flinched like it had opinions. Emily, passing by slower than she wanted, bent, picked it up, and handed it back without a sermon. "You're allowed to be new," she said. In the comm shack, Ryan replaced a worn headset cushion and thought about how many times a single voice had anchored a dozen. He sent a short text to his mother. "We're good here. People are remembering who we are." At the aid station, a hand-lettered sign appeared beside the door. No one claimed authorship. "Strength walks softer than you think." Someone underlined "softer" twice. Davies showed up at the rehab center on his first assigned day with the shell of a man on his face and something more honest under it. The nurse, not impressed by shoulder width, pointed at a list. "Today you refill water. You check vitals I'll already have checked. You sit with men who wake up confused. You won't talk about yourself." "Yes, ma'am," he said, and he meant it. He sat beside a sergeant whose leg had learned to be shorter. The man told a story about a dog that wouldn't stop sleeping on his boots. Davies laughed once, then stopped, then apologized, and the sergeant laughed for real. "You're allowed," the sergeant said. "Humor's the only thing the blast didn't steal." When Davies left that day, he wrote Emily a message he didn't send. He deleted it. He wrote another. He deleted that too. Words felt like a field full of mines. He waited until he could write without making it about himself. "Do you believe consequences should include service to those harmed, or should punishment be purely punitive? What actually changes a person?" Months breathed by. The limp softened into a steadier step. The scar on Emily's cheek stayed light as a pencil mark. She received a promotion to Sergeant First Class, not with a speech, but with a signature and a handshake. She hung the certificate behind a cabinet where only people who were looking for coffee filters would see it. She taught a new class of medics how to pace adrenaline. "It lies to you," she said. "It says go faster. Sometimes that's right. Often it isn't." She showed them how to speak in short sentences that make room for courage to fit inside. Ryan became the kind of NCO who says we, even when he could say I. Dana trained 2 fresh MPs to write reports that read like the truth rather than like a performance. Morales moved on to a new assignment where standards needed to be replanted. She carried the courtyard inside her like a pocket stone. Davies kept showing up at the rehab center long after the obligation ended. The nurse kept not being impressed. Eventually, she nodded at him once. It felt like a parade. He wrote the letter in January when the air at dawn had the taste of metal. He wrote it by hand because some words deserve paper. "Sergeant First Class Carter, I led an insult that targeted a wound I didn't earn. I can't take it back, but I can name it and own it. I have spent weeks sitting with men and women whose bodies learned new rules. I have watched dignity do more than medicine. I am sorry. I don't ask for forgiveness, only for the chance to learn how to be the kind of man who never makes that mistake again. Respectfully, Petty Officer Mark Davies." He didn't expect a reply. Shame doesn't ask for mail. But 2 weeks later, a small envelope arrived, handwriting compact, precise. "Petty Officer Davies, the measure of a soldier isn't in their rank or unit. It's in how they treat those who've already fought their hardest. Keep treating them well. That will be enough. E. Carter." He read it twice. He folded it once. He carried it where he used to carry a lucky coin. On a mild morning, Emily crossed the same courtyard as before, slower still, stronger somehow.
A pair of new seals, fresh from different storms, stood at attention as she passed. They didn't salute. It wasn't the place for it. They simply made room and lowered their voices. She nodded back. The base didn't change because one group was punished. It changed because everyone had learned the same lesson at once. Honor isn't a medal. It's posture. It's how you hold yourself when the hurt walks by. It's a hand steadying the tourniquet. It's a voice that says, breathe once, now talk. It is the quiet that follows when people finally understand what respect costs and why it's worth paying daily. Some wounds close, some teach. On that base, in that heat, a laugh turned into a lesson, and a limping soldier taught a unit what strength really sounds like. It's not thunder, it's not a speech, it's footsteps that keep going. If you've served, you know this truth. If you haven't, carry it anyway. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe for more military stories. These stories keep the courage alive for generations to come. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from. Somewhere tonight, someone is learning to walk again. Let them find your words steady, decent, and loud with respect.